So we don't really have the intros for these other videos that are the second segment and the third segment. And so I don't necessarily want to just go into the topic without acknowledging every time that we're wearing bee suits, because the way that we have this broken up now on YouTube is
Yeah.
the fact that we're putting each segment up separately. And so I can give the intro, I can inform everybody on what's going on in the first segment, and then once we put this separate video out for the second segment, people are going to flock to this and say, why the hell are these guys
No,
wearing
I
bee
kind of
suits
like
right
that.
now?
I don't think we
know
should
you
explain.
do.
I don't
know
think we
you
should
would.
explain it. I think we should just let this sit. And if people randomly see this in their feed and they click on it, I think they should just know what they're getting with this show. This is what you're getting with this show.
Yeah, this is a ringing endorsement. By the way, I think I had my bee hat on backwards, and I tried to flip it over. I think that's why. Not that I look at it yet. Now I look better.
Yeah,
This
I
is
think that's what was making it look ridiculous.
That was the thing that made it look ridiculous. I'll tell you what else is ridiculous, Doug. And look, people might roll their eyes at me saying this. PJ Washington, man, not a good night in the box score. Not in the, at least with the shooting. Box score everywhere else, like he actually did perform pretty well. But when it comes to shooting, PJ was 2 of 10. And in fact, he was 0 of 5 from the three-point line. Just didn't have it going. But also, I think that kind of makes it a weird game, because you would look to him not shooting the ball well, and then you might say, yeah, awful game from PJ. But check out these other stats, and let's just go ahead and talk about his overall impact on the game. Only 5 points, right? But 1 block, 4 steals, 5 assists, 7 rebounds, 6 of the defensive variety. We also know that PJ played very good defense against Giannis, helped provide some resistance on the key turnover at the end of the game. PJ was getting hype. That was fun to see too. Like, PJ was getting as hype as I've seen him, really. Pretty stoic dude is PJ Washington, but I think last night you got to see a lot of emotion from him. This one mattered, and the fact that he didn't get discouraged from a bad shooting night. And look, not to say that he didn't have his faults too. He had what was an awful turnover. I mean, there was one where he was indecisive, decided to try to pass it, kick out to the right side. It got stolen, and he allowed a bucket on the other end. And that was a key play in the game, and PJ blew it straight up. But overall, I think the impact was a positive one. And I can't help but think, Doug, just how, at least for this roster, as currently constructed, how massively important he is to play those center line, to play that center spot, because the numbers suggest all the plus minus with him on the floor. It's all very good for the Hornets. It's been 2 years worth of sample size, at least 1.5. Him with Miles at the 4. Those numbers are good. His 3-point percentage, it's above 40 for the second straight season. The dude just unlocks things nobody else can on this roster. And I think you saw that last night, despite what was just a poor shooting effort.
Well, it's sort of the opposite James Harden defense, where you say, all right, well, he's playing very poorly on defense, but they ask him to do so much on offense. Last night, the Hornets were asking him to, have a Herculean effort against Giannis Antetokounmpo, make things extremely difficult on him. And he did. He not only did that, he did that with 5 fouls for most of the fourth quarter. Like, he had to try to play a little bit smart, but at the same time maintain that aggressiveness. Of course, he fouled out in the first game against Milwaukee several nights ago, and so I'm sure that was looming in the back of his head too. But they didn't have to go back to Mason Plumlee. They could stick with PJ Washington. So it's the opposite James Harden defense. You give him a break on the offensive end because he was doing so much defensively. Also, we have to mention that he had 5 assists in this game, and honestly, like, none bigger than the one that he had with less than a minute to go. LaMelo and Miles ran a pick and roll, and Miles sort of draws the defense down, but LaMelo does a great job getting the pass to the outside.
Yeah, that was a baseline pass, right, from PJ?
Right, and that drew Giannis Antetokounmpo up, allowed PJ to drive baseline. Middleton had to come up to guard baseline, and PJ sees Miles, who, if you look back at that play, this was a huge play. I think put him up 4 with under a minute to go, and huge play. Miles was out of bounds and barely got both feet back in to sort of regain possession, and then regain position, and then caught the ball and got the layup. But just an amazing play by PJ, amazing play by LaMelo. This was a team win because Milwaukee was running zone defense for so much of this game. It made the Hornets have to pass a lot, pass smart, not turn the ball over, and they couldn't knock down shots, so they had to find creative ways like that to get guys looks inside.
And I think they did. I don't know if you
Yeah.
thought this too. They just weren't hitting shots, but
No.
that was a zone defense that I thought the Hornets were able to carve up pretty well. I mean, they were getting open 3-point looks. Terry Rozier just couldn't knock a couple once they had that look at the end of the game. Like Terry was good in this one. It was just in that little stretch where Terry wasn't able to hit a few threes, and it wasn't the greatest percentage from him beyond the perimeter, 4 of 11. But even Gordon Hayward, like I actually thought he showed up with a couple of made shots at the end of this game.
Yeah,
And look, to everybody that dislikes Gordon, you've had a lot of ammo in your arsenal for quite a while now. I mean, Gordon has not been playing all that well, but I thought good in the first quarter and had a couple of big buckets late in this one to give you 14. But the passing was very good. And Milwaukee going to zone, like it almost made Charlotte go to their best strength offensively, which is moving the basketball, especially with LaMelo. And you got to see that kind of work in that one possession you're talking about. LaMelo, PJ dribble in, bounce pass, Miles finishes with the left hand. Giannis can't recover in time, and boom, baby, you're cooking. LaMelo gets set up for a game-winning shot.
I thought it was a huge mistake by Milwaukee for staying in the zone for so long because, one, it allowed Charlotte to adapt, and two, it kind of takes away Giannis's biggest strength on that end of the floor. Like I think it takes away his ability to block shots.
Well, that's PJ, right? Like stretching, because PJ has to go out to the 3-point line, and Giannis was out there, and it's like, wait, the seas part. That's what helped.
He's stretching, and something that he's improved on since his rookie season is moving with the basketball. Like I think PJ, his dribble, his handle is a lot better than it was early on in his career, and he's able to move defenses in a way that he wasn't able to previously. And so a lot of different things going on. Once again, the bench failing Milwaukee. You did have Nwora, who started again and had a terrible game in that first game. He was 7 of 10, 20 points. So at least Giannis and Middleton had some help. But DiVincenzo, 0 of 8. Langston Galloway, 0 of 2.
Game.
Pat Connaughton, 0 of 6. And the turnover at the end by Giannis. Like Giannis, like heaving the basketball, and it goes out of bounds. Connaughton can't come up with it. Just like some crazy stuff in this game.
Well, and how about Cody Martin coming over to help? You build that wall, and I didn't think Cody was going to get over in time. I was like, make the freaking wall. I know. That's what I was saying. Cody Martin, I thought was going to be late, but he got there, and he forced Giannis to make a turnover, trying to pass it in the corner, errant pass. I believe it was Wes Matthews in the corner, if I'm not mistaken, and then he couldn't get a handle on it, and eventually they're not able to save it. Maybe it was him attempting to save it. Either way, that was a nice late wall built by a couple of Charlotte Hornets to force it to the outside, because like there were a couple of times Giannis got a full steam ahead, roll into the basket, and Hornets got bailed out. Like PJ had the time where he swiped at the basketball, it hit Giannis's knee, Charlotte Hornets basketball on the other end, and then that play that we're talking about, 2 times Giannis was rolling to the basket. It's pretty unguardable, and Hornets got lucky along with some nice defensive awareness at least, and just being in position to help them get lucky.
So let's zoom out a little bit and really kind of take a 30,000-foot view of what has happened over the past couple of nights.
Bees can't fly that high, Doug. Like what? I mean, I don't know. We're talking about like
yeah, you're right. Let's take
30
Can
foot?
they how about 300? Let's take a 300.
Can they fly that
view.
high? I'll look it up while you're talking. Go ahead.
Listen, I didn't join this podcast to do math, so yeah, you look it up. See how high these bees can fly. We'll see how high the Hornets can fly. But they've beat the defending champs with Giannis and Middleton. It's not. I mean, the 2 best players. I know they're missing a few guys, but still got Giannis and Middleton, 2 takeover kind of players who can win a game by themselves. Beat Milwaukee twice in a row. Did it by using defense, keeping the Milwaukee Bucks from scoring 110 points for 2 straight nights and under 100 in this second night. Something they have not been able to do against even bad offensive teams. They've struggled to do that. So we've seen a complete turnaround of this team, and Borrego makes the point after the game. Can they take this win and say, okay, or 2 wins, and say, okay, we're going to get better than this, even better than this? Can we grow, or are we just going to sit back on our heels? We'll find out, because they have a huge test coming up Wednesday against Philadelphia, a team that has just given them all kinds of problems, has won 7 games in a row, and sits 5th in the Eastern Conference. It doesn't stop for the Hornets. It's a huge measuring stick coming up against the Sixers.
If they beat Philly, then I'm ready to say
I'm getting in my car. I'm driving 6.5 hours. I'm going right out to Trade and Try On in my beast suit.
I want to stand corrected here real quickly, Doug.
Okay.
I looked up how high bees can fly,
Uh-huh.
and the first few hits on Google, scientists have found that honeybees can and do fly at very high altitudes, over 25,000 feet.
Boom!
I
Boom,
mean,
baby!
and look, I'm only feeding the beast when I give you another compliment.
Yes,
but then I go,
I knew
see,
it. I knew the whole time. I was
played
trying to
me.
help you out, honestly, and make you feel better and kind of questioning it, but I pretty much knew the entire time.
You played me. Livescience.com, like the fourth hit on Google. In fact, it says that all of the bees were capable, measured in this livescience.com whatever article experiment, all the bees were capable of flying in conditions equivalent to 13,000 feet, and some even made it past 30,000 feet. You hit it right on the money. Mount Everest, unbelievable.
Well, and honestly, you know what? Let's take a lesson from Nature Walker and not underestimate the Charlotte Hornets and how high they can fly. We had this like seed ceiling discussion in the last show, and I think we put it at 5. I think we're thinking a little too conservative because the Hornets have been on the roller coaster and we've seen how low that roller coaster can go. But I think it might be time for fans to start believing again.
You don't know how high I can fly. The words of Michael Scott. We've got one more segment to go. Kelly Oubre, the only bad news that came from yesterday, does enter health and safety protocol. We got to see Jalen McDaniels minutes, Cody Martin minutes. How do we expect the Hornets to navigate this journey without Kelly in the time being? We'll talk about that next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.